Welcome to Millennium Daytime Bulletin. I'm Shweta Simar from New Delhi, and you are watching Millennium News Channel 24. Today, I'm bringing you the latest updates from around the world. Let's begin with today's top headlines. French Prime Minister to stay as caretaker after handing in resignation. Undercover Israeli forces raid West Bank hospital, seize alleged militant from ICU. Syrian rebels capture second major city as army withdraws from Hama. World on brink of third nuclear age with few guardrails in place, UK military chief warns. Romania's far-right presidential forerunner vows to end Ukraine aid. South Korean leaders under pressure as impeachment vote looms. Amnesty accuses Israel of genocide against Palestinians in Gaza. Mixed global markets. America indices reflect diverse sentiments. World Chess Championship 9th game between Gukesh and Lyran ends in draw. Andrack Carlton defeats number 1 Kansas in huge night of upset in college basketball. Now let's look at the details. French Prime Minister Michel Barnier submitted his resignation Thursday after losing a vote of no confidence that triggered the collapse of the government and deepened the country's political turmoil. Barnier formally handed in his resignation to President Emmanuel Macron, who accepted it. He will remain in office in a caretaker capacity until a new government is appointed, according to the statement from France's presidential office. On Monday, a total of 331 out of 577 lawmakers voted against Barnier's fragile government, seizing their power opportunity to topple the veteran politician and renowned negotiator after his attempt to ram through parts of his government's annual budget. His in the first French government to be defeated in the no-confidence motion since 1962, and Barnier is now set to become France's shortest-serving prime minister in history. Choosing a successor will prove a delicate task, with the increasingly vulnerable president forced to appease lawmakers on both extremes of French politics. Macron had appointed Barnier to lead a minority government after a snap elections called by the president in the summer split French Prime Minister into the three factions, which will short of a majority. The situation had immediately appeared untenable, and it collapsed at the first major hurdle on Monday when Barnier was forced to use a constitutional mechanism that bypassed a vote in the legislature on his 2025 budget that allowed rival lawmakers of the left to vote to bring him down, to call a confidence motion supported by the motion. On Wednesday, the far right had also called a similar motion. Pleading his case during Wednesday debate in the National Assembly, Barnier told lawmakers he was not afraid but warned that removing him would make everything more difficult. But he was forced to watch as a lawmaker after lawmaker called for his ouster. Marine Le Pen, the leader of the far-right National Rally, said during the debate that Barnier's stubborn adherence to dogma and doctrine prevented him from making the slightest concession, which would have avoided the outcome. In the day before the vote, Barnier accused the far right of political blackmail, saying that they had agreed to this concession on electricity tax hikes and medical aids for undocumented people before demanding more. The far right leader has been the chief antagonist throughout the Macron era, challenging him to presidential elections and now dispatching the prime minister he had handpicked to settle a simmering crisis. She placed the blame of the fall of Barnier government squarely on Macron's shoulder. He was the one of the most responsible for the current situation, she said following the vote. Macron will assume his responsibilities. He will do what his reason and his conscience dictate him to do. She said in the interview, Macron will address the French nation at 8 p.m. on Thursday evening, the Alsace Palace announced. Israel forces dressed in civilian clothes raided a hospital in the northern occupied West Bank on Wednesday night and detained an alleged Palestinian militant who had a day earlier been injured in an airstrike that killed Hamas members. Around 20 undercover Israeli special forces wearing doctor, nurses, and even female Palestinians outfit stormed the hospital, a hospital officials said, because they are not authorized to speak with the media, told Millennium. The entire process took less than 6 minutes. Storming, kidnapping, and departure video from bystanders show Israel forces, one of whom were a while medical officer, wheeling the suspect out of the Nablus hospital in a wheelchair and into an unmarked van. In a statement, IDF said the following: an elimination attempt of the alleged militant. Security forces precisely operated and apprehended him today at a hospital in Nablus. The military said the alleged militant Ayman Ghanem took part in the August shooting attack near an Israeli state settlement in the northern Western Bank, which killed one Israeli civilian and injured others. The International Committee of the Red Cross says the international law bars perfidy, which includes feigning civilians and non-combatant status to kill the adversary. The Palestinian Ministry of Health called the raid a flagrant violation of the international law and conventions that stipulate the protection of treatment centers and patients. The IDF said in the operation was planned to mitigate harm to patients. Israeli special forces dressed as civilian and medical staff infiltrated the Ibn Sina hospital in the occupied Western Bank city of Jenin on Tuesday and killed 3 Palestinian men. Ghanem was injured in the Israeli airstrikes on car near the town of Aqaba in the northwestern Bank on Tuesday, which the IDF said targeted a terrorist cell planning an imminent terror attack. Handcuffing medical staff and arresting several people, according to the Palestinian Ministry of Health, and videos taken by bystanders. The IDF said soldiers did not enter the hospital. Hamas military wing, the Qassam brigades, said in the statement that Tuesday's strike killed 2 of the members following the treacherous Zionist bombardment that they were subjected to while carrying out a mission with other fighters near the Aqaba. The hospital officials told Millennium that Ghanem, who had been seriously injured, was in the ICU at the time of the Israeli raid and had undergone surgeries to treat abdominal and leg injuries. IDF said security forces will continue to operate wherever necessary to thwart terrorism in the area and maintain the safety of Israeli civilians. Syrians rebels have driven government forces from Hama, a major city that the country regime had held over more than a decade of civil war, further weakening President Bashar al-Assad's grip on the nation. The Syrian military said on Thursday that it had to withdraw from strategically important hub of Hama after the rebels penetrated several parts of the city. The rebels, led by the Islamist group Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, said they freed hundreds of those wrongfully detained from the city's central prison. Hama is the second major city the rebels have captured in their week-long offensive, which has thrown the Assad regime forces into disarray. After capturing Aleppo last week, the rebels swept across the Hama and now are setting their sights on Homs, the next city south of the highway to the Syrian capital of Damascus. Our heroic people in Homs, your time has come, a spokesperson for the rebels said on Thursday. Shock offensive delivered a huge blow to Assad and his backers in Iran and Russia and has reignited a civil war that had been largely dormant for years. More than 3 lakh civilians in Syria have been killed since conflict erupted after Assad government tried to stamp out peaceful pro-democracy protests in 2011. Hama is strategically located in the key routes of the western central Syria. Rebels had been unable to capture the city since the start of the civil war. Abu Muhammad, the leader of Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, the main rebel group leading the offensive, said these forces entered Hama to cleanse a 40-year-old wound. The city holds symbolic significance as it was the site of one of the country's largest and most brutal massacres in 1982 when President Hafez al-Assad, the current ruler's father, ordered his military to quash a revolt. A 1983 Amnesty International report put on death toll above 10,000. Hama was also site of some of the first protests against the Syrian regime following the Arab Spring in 2011. Videos geolocated by Millennium showed rebels fighters celebrating almost in disbelief at the progress as they entered Hama. The world is at the brink of the third nuclear age, the head of the United Kingdom Armed Forces warned. The world has changed, Admiral Sir Tony said in a lecture on Wednesday at the UK's Royal United Services Institute. Global power is shifting and a third nuclear age is upon us. This age, has warned, is altogether more complex than those that came before it. The first of these ages was the Cold War, Radican said, while the second was defined by disarmament efforts. The third nuclear age, which according to Radican the world's is at the dawn of, is defined by multiple and concurrent dilemmas, proliferating nuclear and disruptive technologies and almost total absence of the security architectures that went before. Russia's war in Ukraine and multiple conflicts in the Middle East have upended global stability, he suggested. The deployment of North Korean troops on Russia's border with Ukraine was the year's most extraordinary development, he said, as well as Moscow's use of Iranian-supplied drones and its threats to arm Yemen's Houthis rebels in retaliation to the West support of Ukraine. November, Russia updated nuclear doctrine 2 days after Joe Biden granted Ukrainian permission to strike targets deep into Russia with American-made weapons. Despite this, Radican believes that only a remote chance that Russia will attack or invade NATO, as it is known that the response would be overwhelming, whether conventional or nuclear. The strategy of deterrence by NATO works and is working, the armed forces chief said, but it had to be kept strong and strengthened against the dangerous Russia. Global unease is dividing the world into 3 groups, Radican said. In one group is the authoritarian state seeking to challenge the global rules, including Russia, China, North Korea, and Iran. In the second are responsible nations, mostly including democracies, but also Gulf monarchies and others who are committed to partnership and the maintenance of stability and security in the world. The third group is made of countries hedging and ducking between the two maximum advantage. Radican said NATO countries must maintain an advantage over their adversaries in order to defeat them, he added. In October, an Israeli strike on Iran destroyed Tehran's ability to produce ballistic missiles for a year and took down nearly the entirety of Iran's air defense system. In this sense, Russia is showing us how not to fight, and Israel is its response to Iran has shown us the disproportionate advantage of modern ways of fighting. the Vatican said. Calin Georgescu, the French nationalist politician leading the presidential race in Romania, has told the Millennium that he would end all support for Ukraine if elected. He's facing a second round runoff in the elections on Sunday when he will run against Elan Lasconi, a former TV presenter who is campaigning on a firmly pro-EU platform. Georgescu, who only election campaigning has been on social media, said he would make the Romanian people his priority, but he denied that his to surprise success so far the result of a Russian-backed influence operation, saying he did not care about the lies of the country's intelligence agency as he was working with God and the people. On Wednesday, in a highly unusual move, Romania's outgoing president published declassified documents that detailed what was called as the massive and highly organized campaign for Georgescu on TikTok, coordinated by a state actor. The paper included an intelligence assessment that Russia was carrying out hybrid attack on Romania, which was seen as enemy state. The Constitutional Court is now being flooded with requests to look into the allegations of meddling with a view of possibly cancelling the elections. Prosecutor today announced that they opening a criminal investigation, but there is no timeline on when that might conclude. They are afraid is how Georgescu brushed away evidence that hundreds of thousands of dollars were spent pushing campaign content for him, breaking both Romanian elections law and TikTok's own rule. He denied that he was Moscow's man, referring derisively to Romanians and intelligence agencies. They can't accept that the Romanian people finally said, "We want our lives back, our country, our dignity," he said, portraying himself as battling against an unyielding establishment in a sometime touchy interview in which he praised Donald Trump and Hungarian populist leader Viktor Orban. Georgescu referred to Vladimir Putin as patriot and a leader. He then asked, "But I'm not a fan." But when questioned about Russia's war in Ukraine, he first asked, "Are you sure of that?" appearing to deny the war's very existence. He then said Romania was interested only in pushing for peace on its border, but refused to say that this should be Kyiv's terms. When asked whether he agreed with standing by Ukraine, as the EU puts it, for as far as Georgescu said no. He said that things would change. "I agree that I have to take care of my people. I don't want to involve many of my people," he replied, clarifying that Romania, an EU and NATO member, would provide no more military or political support for its neighbor. Zero, everything stops. I have to take care just about my people. We have a lot of problem ourselves. It would be a dramatic change in position for Bucharest and one of the wood music to Russian ears. The president in Romanian has considerable power, including influence on areas such as foreign policy. He is also commander-in-chief of the armed forces and appoint the prime minister. Romanians share a long border with Ukraine and has a staunch support for Kyiv since full-scale invasion in 2022 under Georgescu presidency. Romania would also join Hungary, Slovakia and Russia on the eastern flank of NATO. It would be a serious dent to EU solidarity on Ukraine, more responsibility for aiding Kyiv with Donald Trump back in the White House. South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol is facing mounting pressure to resign over his failed attempt to impose martial law. As parliament moves closer to a vote on his impeachment, the capital Seoul has seen a second day of street protest demanding Yoon's resignation, while police said he was being investigated for insurrection. The opposition is pushing for a vote on the motion to impeach Yoon on Saturday, even as President's party has said it opposes the move. It said at least 8 members of Yoon's party to vote for his impeachment for the motion to pass with a 2/3 majority. in the 300-seat parliament. South Korea was plunged into political turmoil late on Tuesday night when Yoon made the shock martial law declaration. He cited threats from anti-state forces and North Korea. However, it soon became clear that this move had been scored not by external threats but by his own domestic political troubles. Yoon rolled back the declaration 6 hours later when the MP voted it down. His attempt to rule by martial law has caused public outrage and street protest. He has not spoken publicly since revoking his decision early on Wednesday before his attempt to place the country under military rule. Yoon had been beset by low popularity ratings, corruption allegations, and an opposed led legislature that reduced him to a lame duck leader. Further rallies calling for Yoon's resignation took place on Saturday, including one of the candlelight in the evening. There was also been some rallies in support of him, but they have not been much higher. Some lawmakers are also staying near the National Assembly to make sure that they are ready to void another martial law decree that attempt should made by Yoon. Amnesty International has accused Israel of committing genocide after against Palestinians in the Gaza war, which Israel strongly denies. UK-based human rights group said in conclusion it was dehumanizing and genocidal statements by Israeli officials, digital images and witness testimony, and must serve as a wake-up call to the international community. Israel's foreign ministry described the 295-page report as entirely fake and full of lies. Israel military says that the claim was entirely baseless and in the past day. Meanwhile, local medics say at least 50 Palestinians have been killed in the Israel strikes in Gaza. The biggest number of people were killed in the at Malwasi tent camp for displaced people, where Israel says it was targeted Hamas operative. Amnesty say that its research over months has found sufficient basis to conclude that Israel has committed a genocide. The 1948 Genocide Convention, enacted following the mass murder of the Jews in the Nazis' Holocaust, defines genocide as act committed with intent to destroy in whole or in part a national, ethnical, racial or religious group. Amnesty Secretary General said Israel actions include killing, causing serious bodily or mental harm, and deliberately inflicting on Palestinians in Gaza condition of life calculated to bring their physical destruction. The report of the Global Campaign Group comes as the UN's top court, the International Court of Justice at The Hague, continues to examine allegations by South Africa that Israel is committing genocide in Gaza. Israel has called the case wholly unfounded and baseless. Responding to allegations on Amnesty, Israel's foreign ministry spokesperson said human rights group as a deplorable and fanatical organization. The genocidal massacre on 7 October was carried out by the Hamas terrorist organization against Israeli citizens. He stated, adding that Israel as acting in self-defense and fully in accordance to the international law. The Israel military said it was actively working to dismantle Hamas military infrastructure in Gaza and that it takes all feasible measures to mitigate harm to civilians during operation. About 1,200 people in southern Israel, mostly civilians, were killed during the Hamas-led attack 15 months ago when triggered the Gaza war. Since then, at least 44,000 people have been killed in Gaza, mostly civilians according to the Hamas state-run health ministry, when figures are seen as reliable by the UN. Now bringing you the latest updates on today's market trends. Today's market trend across the Americas showcase a mix of cautious optimism and sector-specific movements. The Dow Jones Industrial average in the United States saw a slight pullback, dropping by 123 points or 0.27%. This decline reflects a broader cooling of enthusiasm in cyclical sectors as investors remain cautious about macroeconomic uncertainties, including interest rates and global geopolitical factors. The S&P 500 and Nasdaq indices, however, buckled the trend, inching upward with minimal gains of 0.01%. These moves suggest a tilt towards tech-heavy or growth-oriented stocks, with investors selectively optimistic about future earning and innovative sectors. Canada's S&P, TSX Composite and TSX 60 both posted modest gains, rising 0.30% respectively. Strong performance in energy and mining stocks likely contributed to the uptick given Canada's resource-driven economy. Latin America reflected robust optimism with Brazil's Bovespa surging 1.4%, signaling economic resilience. Similarly, Mexico's S&P IPC climbed 1%, supported by the stability in its industrial and export sectors. Chile's S&P performed well, 0.3%, signaling the recovery of the market. This divergence in market performance across indices reflect varied investors' sentiment globally, while tech and commodities continue to shine. Concerns over broader economic and stability keeps market volatile. Investors were likely to watch the upcoming economic releases. In the ETF market today, movers highlighted a dynamic blend of trend, while several sector-specific instruments showing significant activity. The T-Rex 2X Inverse MTSR Daily Target ETF topped the performance chart, gaining 6%. This indicates short strategies on MSTR may have benefited from recent volatility, reflecting a possible pullback in cryptocurrency-linked equities. The iShares Bitcoin Trust ETF saw a solid 1.9% rise, aligning the cryptocurrency strong sentiment. Bitcoin prices stabilizes near recent high. Interest in blockchain-focused ETF remains robust. Tesla-linked ETF has strong showing. The Direction Bull, about 6% performance high, underscores the resilience of Tesla-related assets as investors show confidence in EV giant growth prospects and new market innovations. Conversely, the Direction Daily Semiconductor Bull dipped by 5%. This decline reflects weakness in the semiconductor sector, potentially tied to mixed earnings. Lastly, the Defense Daily Target gained 6%, mirroring MSCZ's inverse performance strategy. This further highlights in the divided sentiment that cryptocurrency-related equity plays. Overall, today's ETF market indicates a tilt towards speculative plays in foreign high-growth sectors and volatile sectors, with trades balancing optimism in current EV against caution in semiconductor. Investors should remain vigilant as these trends often signals short-term volatile and long-term directional shifts. We'll be right back after a short break. I'm Shweta Simar from New Delhi. Keep watching Millennium Daytime Bulletin.
Millennium TV, bridging communities worldwide. We broadcast diverse international content from Europe, Asia, Africa, and now right here in the USA. Watch us via Roku on your smart TV. Download the Millennium TV app from the App Store to stream our shows anywhere, anytime. Millennium TV.
Welcome back after the break. I'm Shweta Simar from New Delhi and you're watching Millennium Daytime Bulletin. Now let's look at some sports highlights. Stalemate continued in the World Chess Championship as ninth game between Indian challenger D. Gukesh and defending champion Ding Liren of China ended in yet another draw to still level on point here on Thursday. The sixth consecutive draw and seventh of the match left both players on an unidentical tally of 4.5 points each, still shy of 3 points in order to win the championship. Stalemate continued in the West World Chess Championship as the ninth game between Indian challenger D. Gukesh and defending champion Ding Liren of China entered in yet another draw to still level on points here on Thursday. The sixth consecutive draw and seventh of the match left both players of the identical tally of 4.5 tech. The two players signed peace after 54 moves. Friday is a rest day and they will resume the battle on Saturday. Just 5 more classical games are left to be played in the $2.5 million prize money championship, and if a tied result happens after 14 rounds, there will be games under faster term control of determine the winner. The 32-year-old Liren has won the opening game while the 18-year-old Gukesh has emerged victorious in the third game. Number 1 Kansas was upset 76-33 by unranked Canton on Wednesday night by Blue Jays' second win over top-ranked opposition in less than a year. Pop Isaacs led by the scoring for Creighton with the game-high 27 points, while 7'1" Ryan contributed 17 points and 10 rebounds on his return from injury. Creighton has now won 2 in a row against top-ranked team, having downed the Yukon Huskies last season. Wednesday victory was Coach Greg 15th win over a top 10 teams in the tenure with the Blue Jays. But the unranked team responded with a 10-0 run punctuated by the 2 3-pointers from Isaacs. Ashworth sunk in his own 3-pointers with 9 points remaining to make 65-53 round. In the Kansas first loss of the season, I haven't quite had a moment like that in the college, Isaacs said. As per the Millennium sources, students had poured into the court at the end. I haven't played against number 1 team in the country. I have played against number 2 and number 3, which was hyped. The students showed up. It was electric out there. That wasn't the first court storming I have been. I was the biggest one. That was all. Thank you for tuning in. Stay with us for more updates. Log in to stay updated with the latest news on our social media platforms: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Millennium News 24. Don't forget to check out our YouTube channel, Millennium News 24. You can watch us on Android and iOS devices, as well as on Apple TV, Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, and all smart TV platforms. Enjoy entertainment and latest news with us. Download Millennium TV apps, Millennium TV USA for Android and Millennium News on Google. Thank you for being part of Millennium News 24.